You are tuned in to What Up Baltimore online radio. Please note that the views and opinions expressed are of the host and not of Lady J Media. Thank you and enjoy the show. Welcome to Let's Talk Money with financial broker and educator Zulieka Baysmore. Enjoy.
Good morning. Good morning to all our viewers. This is the 5th episode of Let's Talk Money with yours truly, Zulieka Baysmore. And we're going to get into it this morning. And when I came on Monday, our Monday show was our 4th episode on Lady J Media. And I began to talk about IULs and just how important it is to choose the right vehicle, the right product for your financial needs, but not just your needs, also your goals. So this morning, as I said on Monday, I wanted to dive more into what is an IUL, what is the concept, what is that strategy. So it's important to understand various financial strategies, because then you can make an intelligent decision on, okay, is this the right product for me? Makes a lot of sense. Okay. So this morning we're going to actually dive right into it. So we're doing a presentation this morning of presenting what that concept looks like. And you can just judge for yourself. Would that product actually meet my financial needs, but even so, my goals, my financial goals? So this morning, we're putting up that information. And there we go. We're putting up that information this morning, and I'm going to put my glasses on. For those of you that are watching on my live Facebook, you can at least hear the breakdown. So let's just take, for instance, if you're looking to save money for your children's college education, not only that, you want to be able to also be covered for short-term, long-term disability. One thing that I found out, and millions of people found out last year during a world pandemic, that, wow, rapidly financial things can change for all of us. It doesn't matter what level you're on, what status, what financial status or bracket you're in. Things can change. So it's something that I've been teaching over the past 40 years about making sure you have that emergency reserve of cash, liquidity, hands-on cash. So when financial situations arise, you're prepared for them. So that's should be a second goal. Even more so, we should make sure we're covered. Okay, that should be your very first goal. For young people, for middle-aged people, for people my age bracket and beyond. You have to make sure that you're covered. And I'm going to tell you what's so smart. At 25, 24, I got covered. So I was covered for $500,000. Not only that, I believed in investing the difference from what I was paying in certain products and move it over and put it into a mutual fund. It's where I could be earning compounding interest. And back in the 80s, we were earning like 22 to 33% compounding interest. Sadly enough, I've had to experience 4 of the stock market crashes, 4 of them. So I thank God for people like Warren Buffett, who came out with getting with top rated companies second oldest company in the country when it comes to life insurance, and creating a product that actually addresses 4 various financial needs. So we're going to get right into presenting that. Where does it start? Next slide, please. It starts with looking at what happens to you if you pass away too soon, prematurely, unexpectedly. We had over 700,000 people to pass away in America between the start of this pandemic and last week, and the numbers are still growing. The death rate is going down a little, but the numbers of people that are hospitalized, I woke up this morning looking at it, is averaging 5,000 people a day. 5,000 individuals a day are ending up hospitalized. And yes, where the vaccines are working with some people, it depends on your actual medical and physical condition. Some people will not be able to get vaccine because of pre-existing issues, or maybe they're allergic to something in the vaccine itself. That has happened. Okay, so what are we talking about? We have to protect ourselves. Then we have to grow our money so we can prepare for the next pandemic. Why do you think? Look, this was a man-made pandemic, a man-made virus. It was a man-made virus. So if you see it that it's a man-made virus, and they're already, just like Bill Gates in 2009 was warning everybody that we were going to face a pandemic. Because behind the scenes, some of them people knew what China was working on, what they were researching, or if they were in the blind, because Bill Gates is all over the world. He's global. He has a foundation, and they are well-traveled, him and his wife. And so he was warning people to be prepared. And so it's sad. I thank God that, and people are still calling me today. Someone called me last night and someone called me this morning. Thank you, thank you, Zulieka, because I had money that I could tap into. So when we talk about IULs, and it's called Index Universal Life, this policy actually covers you on 4 different financial levels. One is, this is an example of one of my clients going ahead and making sure she was covered for $100,000. She's 48 years old at the time that I did this policy. And that was 2 years ago. So I know she's happy because she had money in that index fund. Last year, when we started into this pandemic, she had money in that fund. Several of my clients, and I had for this index fund, I think I wrote about 172 people with this particular product. And then I made sure all of my people were covered. So when we talk about indexing your money, it's a tax-free death benefit. So your beneficiary pays no taxes on the death benefit. So when they receive that check, that's their money. Okay, that's their money. So if it covers also if you become terminally ill, it pays a lump sum. Chronic illness benefits. If you come down with a chronic illness or you critically injured, this is the type of product you want to have, you want to own. Okay, because you saving money in your checking account or saving account, you're not making money while you're sleeping. Matter of fact, you're losing money. Check it out. The rate of inflation right now is 5.6%. and it's climbing. So if you're only earning 0.025% interest, even on an interest-bearing savings account, or checking account, you've actually lost 5.60%, because your money's not keeping up with the rate of inflation. So you have to have another product. If you, with this $100,000 that she got, and I'm covered for $250,000 with this particular product, but I'm at about $500,000 with all of my different products. So if you came down with a critical injury, we don't know when an accident is going to occur. Look at what happened at Southwest Airlines day before yesterday, where a plane crashed into a home, killing people. Okay, so next slide, please. So with that 100,000, this individual is covered for all of that. So it's death benefits, but guess what? This is benefits that a policy that you can use while you're living. Next slide, please. So indexing your money, if you had put in $100,000 in a mutual fund or somewhere in the stock market prior to 2008, you ended up losing about all of it during the stock market crash in 2008. If you had taken that same $100,000 and put it over into an index, which is, by the way, you're participating now in the S&P 500s, the top 500 companies in the country. So if you had to put that money in there, you would have earned, and we're going to show you what the earnings are. Sorry, my Facebook people, but look, jump on Lady J Media right now, and you can actually see what's going on in terms of the presentation and the illustration. So it covers you for all of that. Potential for tax-free income. So access to benefits in case of illness, and it's tax deferred, cash value growth, because you're indexing that money. So next slide, please. So if we looked at terminal illness, a lot of companies, when it comes to insurance companies, they will pay you a certain amount. Most companies maybe 60% to 75% of the death benefits. So if you had $100,000, they would pay you up to $75,000, which is what we call accelerating the policy. So when the company allows you to accelerate your death benefits, what they're doing, they're allowing you to actually use that money while you're living. That is unheard of. That has never been heard of. Now you have about 3 or 4 companies out of 900 and something companies now taking on what Warren Buffett and what National Life Group presented back in 2009. And still only 1% of the public is aware that this product even exists. And that's why I'm educating. So it covers terminal illness, chronic illness, critical illness, and also critical injury. The other 3 companies that I'm talking about actually will pay you if they can certify that you have a terminal illness where you're about to die in 24 months or more. So that means that if you're about to die, they're going to accelerate those benefits. But if you, with one product that I found in terms of an IUL, 12 months. If you're certified 24 months. If you're certified that you have 24 months to live. Well, guess what? If you had $1 million policy, face value of your policy, they will offer you $900,000. Well, some people ask, wow, how can they do that? How can they achieve that? How can they afford to do it? Well, think about it. It makes perfect sense. If you died, they're going to have to pay out $1 million. They actually just saved $100,000. Okay. By you actually being, you came down with a terminal illness, cancer, or maybe, someone has this product that came down with COVID and they're on the ventilator fighting for their life. Well, now the wife can accelerate that product. So now she's not faced with, or husband, they're not faced with not being able to pay their mortgage. That's why I had a lot of happy clients last year, even though they were going through something, with a family member. They were able to accelerate their death benefits. Okay. So it's a wise product to have. So that cuts out even needing short-term, long-term disability insurance. I was paying $200 every 2 weeks out of my pay by having short-term, long-term disability. Now all that's included in my monthly premium of $189 a month. That's what I pay. But I have $250,000. So it saved me on that end. So it's about putting your money into the right vehicles, the right products. Thank you, Val. Good morning. And so next slide, please. So if we look at the market, even if you compare the Wall Street, the stock market, to S&P 500s, to being able to participate in indexing your money. It used to be a time prior to 2008 where only the wealthy, only people that were well-to-do could even participate. So thanks, Warren Buffett, all right, for going to National Life Group's chairman. So now we all have an opportunity to participate. And if you look at over the past 20 years, the various stock market crashes, we've had 3 of them over the past 30. So if we look at, even though you put that same 100,000 and purchase stock in the stock market, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. The market got volatile back in the last quarter of 2019, and it had to readjust itself. And trust and believe me, with the inflation that's being created right now, I'm looking at a possible crash. And I predicted it in 2018 before the pandemic, because a lot of corporate America, they're going to have their notes being called in by those financial institutions that's holding their paper on loans. Okay. Good morning, Victoria. So what does that mean? We get to have a product, $100,000. You can get to it for young people that maybe you can't afford to set aside $150, $250 a month in this particular product. Well, maybe you should be at $500,000 worth of coverage. Because why? Here it is, you're 30 years old, you just got married, both of you are in your 30s, you have 1 child now, you're planning for the second, you have 2 car notes, you just bought a house. The house is costing you $500,000, $600,000. And I'm talking about, I've got one of my clients in my mind. So she really needed $1 million worth of coverage, or because her house that they just bought was over $600,000. They just purchased the house 2 years before I did her illustration. So what does that say? They're in debt. Yes, she's a principal. She's making over $80,000 a year. Yes, the husband's got a pretty good position that's making close to $100,000 a year. $180,000 income annually. But of course, they're going to pay about 50, 30, 45, now 55% in taxes, because Biden is going up. And don't believe the hype that is only going to go up on people that are making $400,000 or more. Do not believe the hype, okay? Because there are certain areas where everyone is going to feel that tax hike, period, okay? So we're looking at adding on another $5,000 or $10,000, which we call a gap rider. So you can get that gap rider for like $7 a year. So every single year, you may start off with $50,000, But you got to get that gap rider when you get the policy. You may start off with 50,000, but you know you need to be at $250,000 because you have if something happens to you, now your spouse or now your children are left not being able to pay the mortgage off. Come on, people. Y'all have to be smart. You have to be smart. Next slide, please. So what has the S&P 500s, what have they been averaging over the past 20 years? Because remember, you want to look at your insurance policy as a long-term product, a long-term financial product that you own, that one day it can be liquidated. That's how you want to look at it. But liquidated tax-free. And another good thing about this IUL, you can put up to $2.5 million in this, and it's non-taxable income. Because there's a way that it becomes non-taxable. And it's definitely non-taxable if you pass away and it goes to your loved one. And I love the fact that you can break those beneficiaries up any which way you want to break it up. When we do the application, you can break it up like I have mine broken up. I know my oldest daughter is going to take care of my burial, and my niece is going to help her. So it's broken up where my daughter is going to get a higher percentage than my son and our other baby girl, who's just turned 40. Okay. It's been averaging about, in 2018, we got a return on that IUL of 19.75% compounding interest. Now, of course, you have a cap on it. You have a cap on these IULs. Well, they have to put a cap. Think about it. It's your life insurance product. It's also providing you with accelerated benefits that you can use while you're living. Okay. And so your index fund actually has a cap on it. And that's with mostly any product. It's going to be a cap. So the cap back then was 12.5%. Well, guess what? You're not getting 12.5% anywhere. Compounding interest on your money. And that's why in the stock market, if you look and compare on a statistical report chart, you're going to see where over the past 20 years, they've been averaging about the same, even during the stock market crash. So why not protect your money and be indexing your money? Right now, the maximum is about 7.9%, but where can you get that? And still, if the market crashes, zero becomes your hero because you're never going to lose any of the principal that you put into that fund. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Warren Buffett. I keep saying it. And thank you, NLG chairman. Okay, next slide, please. So how is that broken down? Well, let's look at a hypothetical return on this particular strategy. I just put it out there in 2017. Now, I put out with 2018, but in 2017, we that had money in the S&P 500s earned about 19.42% compounding interest. And so if you look at the rate of return, now when the market crashed in 2000, because remember, due to the .com, where a lot of people, especially Hollywood, different people were creating companies that only existed on paper, but they had no product, no productivity, no services, and the market crashed. And in 2002, there was a drop of 23.37% interest that year. Now imagine how much money that people lost in 2002. I lost quite a bit. Not as much as I lost in 2008. And in 2008, it was 38.49% loss in that crash due to mortgage lenders. Okay, so S&P 500s, if I had been someone that had knew about the S&P 500s, even though I was in the financial industry. No one was really talking about this. This was like people that were multimillionaires, people that was worth 2 million on up. They knew where to put this money because they had friends on that level that was going to tell them where to put that money. They had accountants that was going to tell them where to put that money at. Okay. So that's why I feel like everyone should be educated and know about products that even just the average American can participate in. So let's look at the next slide. So for this particular individual, we could do next slide. Okay, so let's look at how the benefits are accelerated. On $100,000, after you've had that policy for 2 years, if you came down with a category 1 illness, then that $100,000, the company would offer $3,936. But I wouldn't take that option because I would always keep that policy going, because the longer you have it, the more money that you're going to compound in that index side of that product. But I would take the monthly benefits because I'm just concerned if you're sick or you're ill or you're injured, you just want to be concerned about being able to get all your monthly bills taken care of, like your mortgage or your rent, your utilities, your food costs. See, a lot of times, in some urban cities, they give you too much, and then you become dependent on free food this way, free food that way, free clothes over here. When really, if we don't learn to become self-sufficient, shame on us and our next generation. It's almost like having a social country, social society. I get it. You do want to help community. But when people are working, all it takes is you to be smart enough to put your money in things that actually build money while you're sleeping. It's called, you have residual income where you could be earning while you sleep, but then you have that passive income. So that passive income is where you choose to put your money at. Is it growing for you? Is it growing for you? So at that point, this individual that I wrote 2 years ago, she would have been able to get $1,895 a month if she became in a category 1 illness or injury. And there's nobody else doing injury but this particular product. Okay. Moderate or severe, they would have offered her almost $50,000 of that $100,000. 2 years, just 2 years into the product, into having this product. $85,500 if it was a category 4 illness, like cancer. Or this last year, a lot of people would have qualified to be able to get some of those benefits. A lot of people. Okay. Next slide, please. So we looked at the projections of how that cash value being indexed would look like in $100,000 policy. And by the way, that $100,000 is only costing this 48-year-old. She's putting less than $150 a month into that product. But look at what she's getting. She's getting short-term, long-term disability, basically. Okay, she's getting $100,000 of tax-free death benefits. She's getting $100,000, 90% of that she can actually accumulate. She can actually accelerate those benefits. So my goodness, why not? My goodness, why not? So if we looked at 100,000, putting 150, close to $150 in that product a month, that's where the sacrifice comes in. But you're sacrificing for you and your family's financial future on a short-term basis and a long-term basis. So 5 years, this person would have had roughly almost, and you can triple that, close to $12,000 in that account. Close to $12,000 in that account. Okay. If we go into 20 years, this person's, you have to triple what I'm showing here. Okay. You have to do that to multiply that by 3. Okay. Because this is only based on a modest 2.5% compounding interest. Okay. We know that it's been averaging roughly about 8.10%. Okay. So we can quadruple that. So you multiply 16,000 in the 20th year by 5. And that's how much now you have in accumulation. It's not guaranteed, but it's hypothetical. It's hypothetical. I got everybody going back and forth. Okay, next slide, please. Do we have any calls? I've got two calls on my phone, but I couldn't take them because I'm asking people to call into 443-297-4753. Once again, the call-in number, if you have questions, is 443-297-4753. If you want to set up an appointment with me where I can actually do a free illustration for you and your family, or just for you, give me a call. And no matter how young you are or how old, we all need to be covered. We all need to be covered. We all need to always look at our family and what we're leaving behind. Proverbs 16:22. A good man leaves an inheritance behind for his children's children. So look, somebody in the family has to think beyond just self and think about not just your children, but even your grandchildren. I've looked at 3 generations beyond me. Okay. So if we look at 30 years from now, this person has got over $400,000 in the index side. On the index side. Okay. So wouldn't that make a great retirement? Think about it. And you can make withdrawals. And remember, I said that you can accumulate up to $2.5 million in that one product, in that one policy. And it's tax deferred. Now, when you start withdrawing money out of that policy, but the beautiful thing about life insurance policies, you're not withdrawing, you're borrowing. And all they're gonna do is you have to pay it back. And what I tell my clients to do, pay a little bit back at a time, but make sure you pay the interest on that loan every year when you get that interest loan bill. Just pay it. That way, if you borrow $10,000, it's not going to grow every year because you're making sure you pay the interest on the loan every year. And then make some payments. When you get your tax refund, make a nice good payment back on it. Because what will happen is, one beautiful thing about insurance, they don't run your FICO scores, they don't do any of that. It's not an application. It's just putting in a request, because remember, this is your money that you're accumulating in that policy. So now if you prematurely passed away and have an outstanding loan, they're just going to deduct it from the death benefits. And your beneficiary would receive the remaining. So you want to be even smart about the way you borrow. Isn't money all about making sure you can take care of you and your family's needs? And yes, from time to time, do something nice for yourself. Okay. So the next slide, please. We get into some real accumulation in these policies. We get into some real accumulation. And even once you get a certain age, and if you didn't borrow any money out of that policy, if you didn't say have an emergency, then guess what? Your face amount is going to also increase, which is your face amount is your death benefit. So I'm still seeing if we have any calls. We are almost at the end of this particular presentation, but I wanted to put enough out there just to educate all of you and tell you to give me a call. It's a free illustration, not going to cost you anything. We can do it via Zoom, and I can even take a look at if you have insurance. I can even take a look at what you already have. Okay. But believe me, it's nothing like having all in one. You ever heard that place where you can a one-stop center where you go one place and you have everything that you need. It satisfies all your financial needs. And so we're asking people that want to be sponsors of the show. If you're a business person, if you want me to do a call out about your business, we only charge a small fee for that. Give me a call at 443-741-5748 to get your business actually presented on our show. If you want to come on the show and you want to just talk about what you're doing when it comes to finances, give me a call at 443-741-5748, and we can talk about bringing you on the show. It's a small sponsorship fee for that, very small. But yeah, we need more people that are willing to come out and educate people about finances. And I tell small business owners, if you don't have an IUL or you're not looking at different vehicles to put a good retirement fund aside for you, shame on you. Because what do you think is going to happen when something happens to you? If you become ill or if you become sick, your business is going to suffer and your family members are going to be left to scramble. You know, I'm looking at small business owners right now that one guy told me my family and I are just absolutely exhausted, Ms. Baysmore. You know, we can't keep employees. Now his son's gone back to college. So now that put even more burden on him. So do we have a next slide, please? Or is that my last? I think I have one more slide, or is that it?
That's the last one.
Thank you so much, Lady J Productions, and thank you. So if you guys have any questions, you can give us a call at 443-297-4753. That's 443-297-4753. I would like to hear from someone. I know my Facebook listeners, viewers should be having some questions. Call on into the show. So let's talk about what else that particular product can do for you. That particular product can do many things because it's all about cash accumulation. It's all about having enough coverage that is going to make sure that when something happens to you, your family is not left having to do a GoFundMe. To me, I just got to say, to me, I think that's the most humiliating thing. And I know God says that, humiliation will teach you some things. Sometimes it takes some people to go through humiliation to understand, wait a minute, I need to be thinking right. I need to be planning right. And because humiliation is a terrible feeling. I've been there. It's a terrible, terrible feeling It really is. And some people is like, well, why are you feeling him? Why are you feeling? I said, well, see, God just know how to work with me. God knows how to work with me. So I have a caller. Yes, caller. Who am I speaking with this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. This is Tanya Flowers. How you doing?
Hey, Tanya. We're going to be talking later on.
Yes, we are. I had a question, and I didn't know if other people had it, so I just wanted to just kind of spill it out there.
I love it.
Great product you've been talking about. Is it? I don't know. Affordable is. I don't know. That's measured by person, but
right. Yeah, you're right. So let me
affordability for those of us who are over 50.
Right. So let me say something. I think you asked that question last week. Where can I put $5,000? Or where can I put money that I may have saved, but I'm not seeing it grow? So I would tell people that are 50 and over, think about it. I'm 63 and I'm still adding on to my products. Why? Because since I was a teenager, and then especially when I became a mother, I said, I will make sure that my children will never have to work as hard as I have, even when it comes to my own business. Business owners work harder than anybody in almost any field, because if they don't work, they don't eat. Okay.
Right.
So I got to tell you, that's why we do a free illustration, because we look at your budget, because we can pull money from things that you didn't even realize you had money at. You feel me? And I'm being very, very serious about that. A lot of people are sitting on money right now that don't even realize that they have something that has money accumulated, and they don't even know they have it. I had one lady of just last year that didn't even realize she was sitting on about $20,000. She didn't even realize she was sitting on $20,000. So that's why we do that one-on-one illustration by appointment, because we want to take a look at your budget. We want to probe you to get you to think about, what do I have? I may be holding on to, my grandmother left some insurance policies for me. Because see, one thing about our people is, back in the days, and I got Grandma Lawrence on this morning. Back in the days, our parents and grandparents, they understood the importance of annuities. They understood the importance of U.S. saving bonds. They understood the importance of insurance. They understood the importance. My mother and father had all three on me and my brother. Okay, so and even in the poorest neighborhoods, you ever seeing somebody knock at the door and your mom or your grandmother went and got their purse and gave them some change, or gave them a couple of dollars, and they gave them a receipt? That was the insurance person. And back in the days, it used to be all men. Okay, but I can still remember every single first week of the month when I was 6, the same man would knock on my mom's door. She'd be watching her story, and she, after 3:00, knocking on the door. So they understood the importance. So yeah, it can be affordable. It just depends what your budget is. Now, the biggest thing about IULs is they are going to look really hard at your medical condition. They're going to look at your medical condition. So for those of you, we'll run it through. We'll look at your medication list, because that's what they go by. The MIA system is the medical information system. So when we're doing that application, I'm going to let you know before we get leave whether you qualify or not, because now everything is, even underwriting is electronic. Okay, so worst come to shove, we have other products such as equity index annuities, and I think that's what you and I talked about, Anya. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. You were right in you were right in your saying. I guess it would be different for everyone. And it would. It depends on what your goals are. It depends on where you're trying to get to. If you say, well, I need an extra $200,000 or 50,000 in my retirement when I reach age 66. If you're 50, we know how to put together something that's going to help you reach that goal. Or you may be like me because I own 2 businesses and a broker, and I'm a broker. I need more because I will leave behind a lot of responsibility on my husband and my adult children and my niece. Okay. So I need more. So I have to sacrifice more. Look, people, it's all about how much are you willing to discipline yourself to make a sacrifice. That's what it depends on. Because you know what you find out very quickly? And when you retire, or even if you come out on disability, like my husband had to do, from early dementia, 30 years as a champion. He's been a champion, a total of 8 times. And I'm including the amateur and the professional level. Went to South Africa, brought back all the gold. Okay. So, but guess what? Some of our jobs, there's a price to pay. I have people that used to work for UPS, truck drivers. And guess what? I'm going to tell you, 25% of them end up in their 40s having to have hip surgery, hip replacement. And you think about your job because they're hopping up and down off that truck every single day. So they're putting a lot of wear and tear on that hip joint. Nurses, they're lifting patients.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even our jobs, we have to prepare ourselves financially because I feel so sad for the millenniums. And I'm glad to see that they're becoming entrepreneurs. I'm happy. I'm elated to see that some of them are using e-commerce to brand themselves and make good money. But guess what? They need guidance on where to put the money. Because I don't care how much you make. You hear about even basketball and football players that end up when they retire broke. And I'm going to tell you why. Because nobody's guiding their finances. And guess what? 98% of Americans and even people across the world, across the globe, do not understand how money works.
Mm-hmm.
If I had not been blessed at a young age to be mentored by people in finances and people that shared foundations, I wouldn't have known. I would have known what my mom did. My mom was good. So ask me how to invest in real estate, honey. I'm an expert because my mom was an expert. We own 5 or 6 properties and a plantation. Mm-hmm. The family. Because they understood what generational wealth meant in Black community. It means not selling your property, but making sure that you continue to upkeep your property. Mm-hmm. That's what that means. And it means that if you have more than one property and you've got children, that's money that you can draw off of. There's so many ways that you can use real estate to build wealth. Okay. So I hope that answered your question. I'll talk to you around 11 o'clock. Okay.
Okay, it did. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I loved her question because her question, I'm sure a lot of people ask that question. Well, how much would it cost to actually be able to own a product like that? Be able to index my money, be able to have all of those financial needs covered with one product. It depends. Like I'll give you a prime example. I started all 3 of my children and grandchildren. I'm not even going to talk about my children but they were always insured. But they didn't have that product but now they do, because that product just came out in 2009. But with my grandchildren, when I started their policy in 2018, Think about it. They earned some really good money on their money on that index side in 2018. I started in 2017. And that was my Christmas present to them. And they was so, and Elijah was real excited. He started reading and looking at it, and at the time he was like 13, because he'll be 17, 18 next year. He was so excited. He said, Grandma Z, is that's how much I'm going to have when I turn that age? I said, you're going to have 3 times that amount. Okay? Because this is just a projection on what the guaranteed rate is by the company. And then at the time it was, I think, 3.5%. But that year, that fund earned over 19% compounding interest. Now, of course, there was, I think at the time, a 13.5% cap on it. And, okay? But my God, they earned that type of money on those funds. So do we have any other calls, any other questions about IULs this morning? I would love to hear from you. It lets me know that it's worth me paying money to actually produce these things and actually pay for the studio time, because I want it to be of value to you. So you have questions, you can reach out and call me, 443-297-4753. That's 443-297-4753. I know everyone has a phone out there. Okay. So we've got about 7 minutes left, and I haven't had my coffee this morning because I come on for all of you. I want all of you to share the video, because the more we do this show, the more people that's going to get involved, the more people I can educate about this product. And it's about, I help you, you help me. We're helping us, and we're helping our families. We're helping our families. So I'm going to get ready to end. But for those of you that would love to come on to my show, maybe you're a real estate specialist, a real estate broker. Maybe you're and I'm also into commercial lending, but maybe you are a lender. Okay. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you own a company. All right. Well, it's very, very inexpensive to come on to the show. So give me a call. And my personal number is 443-741-5748, because I would love to have a guest so we can even learn more in different areas about finances. So thank you so much for coming in. We're going to cut it a little short this morning because I have 3 appointments, but I have to get breakfast for me and my family prior to me doing these appointments. I love you all. You guys stay safe. Be blessed. This is Let's Talk Money with me, yours truly, Zulieka. And I'll see you guys on Monday.